Hey everybody, happy Thursday afternoon. This is Sports Fanatic News. I am Joe Boric, and this is just going to be an all things sports update. Well, we embraced the weather for a couple days here in the Philadelphia area. Great weather on Tuesday, followed up by even better weather on Wednesday. There's more good weather coming, though, around the corner, but we got to get through some damp rain first, which is a big change and shift to bright sun and 70s. But it is what it is. It's still not that cool out. It's just damp and rainy, and the temperature overall is still great for this time of the year. Um, On to the Phillies. The Phillies played their first exhibition game today against the University of Tampa. Tomorrow will be their first preseason game, which I believe is televised. And also, you can get it through MLB.com, MLB.tv, etc. Phillies beat Tampa 6-0 today. Tommy Joseph doubled and Andrew Knapp scored. Danny Ortiz singled to score Kingery. Andrew Pullen, a guy that I read an article about by one beat writer that said he could be a surprise guy this year because he's a very solid prospect that's always been a good hitter throughout the minors. But he's not one of our big name guys. Like we have the Dylan Cousins, the Nick Williams, the Reese Hoskins, the J.P. Crawfords, the Scott Kingery, and he kind of gets lost in the woodwork, the Jorge Alfaros. And he gets lost in that woodwork, even the Andrew Knapps of the world. He still gets lost in that woodwork, but he can be somebody that might come up and all of a sudden be a good bench piece, and you'd be like, wow, okay, he's that solid. And I wouldn't be surprised by that as that analyst, can't remember his name right now, but as that analyst would not have as well. And then whoever, Hiker Manesse, hit a sac fly that scored random people in the last inning because by that time a bunch of random guys were in. But it's a good start. The Phillies' motto under Gabe Kapler this year is "Be bold," because Kapler's bold and you expressing your feelings and expressing yourself and also putting in everything. Because this is why the Phillies added a K-Rod. They added a couple more guys in the bullpen. They got back Neshek. They added Tommy Hunter and got back Neshek. So the Phillies made moves where Kapler's not going to feel if the starter gives him his all through 5 1/3 and then looks gassed because, say, Eichhoff looks gassed in the 6th inning because he literally gave you his all and did great through 5 1/3. The Phillies this year won't be as scared, I guess, is a word you could use, to go to the bullpen right away because if K-Rod comes on his minor league contract, he had a bad year last year, but before that he was still pitching in the 3 ERA range. He just changed himself to a control guy, a guy with a low 90s, high 80s fastball that gets you out with spotting. If he can do that, he's a great added addition to already add to Tommy Hunter and Neshek, who we added to then go with Nearest, who's already 4 guys there. And you got Morgan and Milner, who you figure make the team. So that's already 6 guys for righties and 2 lefties. So there's not a lot more room there to see who else makes it. Probably a Garcia, since he had a good year last year. And from there, it'll be whoever. And also, for the Phillies news, the Phillies are still in dialogue with Jake Arrieta. Jake Arrieta, I would assume, is going to make a decision by next week because he's not going to want to get too in to spring training and get way behind by not signing with a team by at the latest next week. For the Phillies, Eichelman got some time today. He looked good. People were saying Eichhoff started the game, so all things were good in their first exhibition game. For the Flyers, of course, have a game this evening against the Columbus Blue Jackets at the Wells Fargo Center. I will do a look-ahead video to that in a little bit. Travis Konechny, it's likely he will not play because I received an update earlier that his knee was still bothering him pretty good. So unless it's got better since this morning when I got that update, I would venture to guess he probably will sit out today's game. And Peter Mrazek is expected to make his first start, so that'll be fun to watch him and see how he does in his first start with his new team, and especially his new young defense core in front of him. You got to get in sync with them right away. And then for Sixers news, of course, the Sixers are in Chicago tonight. That game is at 8 o'clock, starts an hour after the Flyers game. I will also be doing a look ahead to that within an hour or so. And they just need to keep playing their brand of basketball. Marco Bellinelli is going to become more and more a part of this bench as the season progresses because he just got here and he already had a big game. Imagine when he really gets in sync with everybody, what he's going to be able to do, etc., etc. And then, of course, like many have been saying, Rashawn Holmes should get more minutes the second half after the All-Star break. It's come to a point where he deserves it tenfold and way more than Amir Johnson at this point. So, 2 fun games, 2 Philly sports games tonight. It's going to be fun. And then in Eagles news, there's a couple guys that will not be expected to be back next year. Jalen Watkins was reported yesterday. He is not expected to be back. Patrick Robinson's a decision for the Eagles, I would label it as, because if they want to go cheaper, they could try to draft a corner or sign a cheaper corner, because Robinson, according to ESPN Radio, when I was listening earlier, is going to take a big payday this year because of how well he was in the top 5 in some statistical categories among corners this year with how well he played. He's going to want a pretty good contract and a pretty lengthy contract, and he's already 30. So that's going to be a decision for the Eagles if they want to put a cap hit into him or move on and let him go play well somewhere else after rejuvenating his career, which he owes the Eagles great thanks for, is also obviously a Super Bowl ring. I think if I had to guess, they're probably going to move on and try to get a younger corner per draft or per trade or per acquisition in free agency. And that's just because of money. The Eagles are not great on the cap. And in order to sign some of the guys, they're going to want to either in this free agency or make a trade or whatnot. They're going to have to make some moves to loosen up that space. Trey Burton also is a free agent for the Eagles. He, I think, will come back because he has just been continuing to progress, and I think eventually we should leave him go. By that I mean, like, let him play more with Ertz and run some 2 tight end sets and get Burton more involved in the offense, because when Ertz is injured, Burton and Selleck still got it, but Selleck, at this point, I think we could mostly keep to blocking if we keep him going into next year. He's a decision. They could decide to move him to save some cap. That's something I've read about as well. He could just block at this point, and I think Burton should be more in the offense if we do choose to keep him. And there's guys like special teams, Maragos. Do you want to keep guys like him? I think they will, because he's not a cap hit. He's a small salary guy for special team. And then Bradman, a small salary guy for special teams, guys like that. But anyway, this has been an all sports update. This is Sports Fanatic News. I'm Joe Boric. Peace out, everybody.